Now, let's dive straight into the broiler housing structure. We have two types of housing structures. One that will accommodate deep litter and another that will accommodate the battery cage system, like the one which is used in layers. We are not going to discuss much about the battery cage system because it is hardly used in broiler production. It's got its shortcomings in broiler production. So let's talk more on the deep litter system. On the deep litter housing, we've got two kinds of housing. We've got the natural or open housing, the one that is normally used here in Africa, where we depend on the natural atmosphere and wind. And we've got the other, which is called the EC housing, or the tunnel ventilated houses, where everything is controlled by an onboard computer, from the temperature, humidity, wind speed inside there, and how they're going to extract ammonia and other stale airs. All this is done through a software. And that's a story for another day. So today, let's talk more about the natural or open housing. And a natural or open-sided house is one where we depend on the external atmosphere for the birds to grow. That means we depend on the air quality outside, on the temperatures outside, and we're able to ventilate, and that's what goes through in and out of the house. These are the houses that are normally done by many farmers here in Africa and many other places in the world. Right, so some of the things that you need to understand about natural housings, and especially if you're doing a large chicken coop, is the orientation. By this, I mean the house must be east to west oriented, meaning sunlight must not be able to get into the house at any one time, because when the sunlight gets into the house, naturally it warms up that side of the bedding of the house, and birds are going to move to the other side, meaning the feed on that side will also be warmed, and it will also erode in efficacy, and its natural contents will be lost. Birds are also going to crowd on the other side, which is cooler because there's no sunlight getting in. So sunlight is good, but it is not good when it gets into the chicken house. That's why it must be east to west oriented. And on both sides, on the east and on the west, the walls must be able to block out the sun from getting into the house, because again, it warms up that area naturally. Again, if the house is not east to west oriented, then the roof structure will be warmer on one side, especially if it's on a gabled roof. So we need both sides of the gabled roof to be on an equal platform when it comes to the heat. The second set, which is the stocking density. Stocking density basically means the number of birds that can be accommodated in a certain space. Birds will sit on 1 square foot. A bird will sit on 1 square foot to maturity of about day 35. If you're growing birds beyond the day 35, you may consider giving them a bigger space than that, because again, their body weight is going to be bigger than what is on the standard chart. If you're growing capons, which are slightly smaller in body weight, 1.6, 1.7, then you may be able to stock a little bit more. But naturally, we do 1 bird per square foot. So that's another thing you need to understand. And when it comes to the stocking density, it is a great parameter, because that will influence the day of maturity of your birds. Now, your floor plan. Your floor plan must be able to accommodate both the birds and the equipment. Basically, your floor plan must be easy for the birds to be able to move around. That means your house must not have too many corners. And it must also be able to accommodate the number of equipment that the birds will use to the correct ratio. So if we have 1,000 birds, must be able to accommodate to the correct ratio of, 20 for the feeding pans. That's 1:50 and 1:70 for the water troughs. So your floor plan must be able to accommodate that, as well as accommodate the birds. And again, your floor must be able to keep the birds warm enough, meaning if you're able to have a concrete floor, it is an added advantage because number one, it will ease in the clean down process. When the birds are harvested, you need to clean the floor, you need to clean the house, meaning it's going to be easy to clean that house. Number two, a concrete floor which is smooth with no cracks does not harbor any microbials. Therefore, if you are able to clean the house well, you're able to disinfect the house well, then there are no chances of having microbials or bacteria within the house. That means the clean down will be efficient, and when the next crop is coming into the farm, they will find a fresh house. The other one is ventilation. Ventilation is one of the greatest parameters in the growth of the bird. Fresh air is needed at any one time, whether you're in the brooder or whether the birds are ready for sale. Meaning, at any one time, there must be air inlets which are going to bring in air, and there must be air outlets which are going to exhaust an equal amount of air, keeping the air within the coop fresh. We call it minimum ventilation. Now, for you to achieve this, you must have a double curtained structure, meaning you must have curtains on where you have ventilated, on the inside and on the outside. On any standard broiler house, the ventilation should be at least 6 foot, meaning when all the curtains are rolled down, you have 6 foot of air space, and fresh air is going to go in through and go out through the other side. Again, we need also to consider the width of the house, because the standard width is not anything more than 40 foot or 12 meters. Because if it is any wider than that, then you may have pockets of stale air within the house, compromising the bird that will be settling within there. This could, later on affect you in getting hypertensive birds within your coop. Two sides of the house must be well ventilated, if not four, so that there is air incoming in from one side and air coming out from the other side. And it must not be more than 12 meters or 40 foot in width. Now, the other thing is biosecurity. When you're putting up your broiler structure, there are certain things you need to consider. This means if you have any other farm animals within the farm, they must not be near the broiler structure. And especially if you have kienyeji chicken or any other chicken, layers, kienyeji, they don't go hand in hand with broiler production. So it's either you have your kienyeji or you have your broilers, or you have your layers or you have your broilers, but you cannot have both birds in one farm, because one is going to be the victim and one is going to be the carrier. And we all know that the victim will be the broiler when it comes to disease, infection, and mortality. Now, again, your structure must be able to accommodate biosecurity standards, such as a foot deep. There must be a fence within your broiler house so that you can keep away your other animals. You may have pets like dogs or any other thing which is not allowed within the chicken area. Now, you may also witness wild birds getting into a broiler house. That's also a breach of biosecurity, meaning your house must be able to obscure or not to make entry any wild bird or any other rodent by having the wire mesh neatly tucked in all areas where rodents or wild birds can be able to get into the house. So some of those are very important things that you need to be aware of. The other thing is lighting. Broilers naturally need light to grow. So if you set up your broiler house in a dark area, then naturally bird welfare is lost and your birds will not grow to the standards that you may desire or they may desire. So lighting is very, very important. The house must be well lit so that birds can be able to identify their own space as, day-old chicks, and in their growth phase they must be able to have enough light for them to be able to have the correct bird welfare and grow in the correct manner. So lighting is also very important.